Hey everyone, welcome back to the Smiling Homeschooler Podcast. We're glad you can join us again this week. Before we begin, we just want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks for making the Smiling Homeschooler possible. Unfortunately, we are getting closer to the start of the school year, and if you're needing to get your math curriculum figured out, then go check out teachingtextbooks.com. They have free trial, amazing options for all the different ages and grades, so go check them out. We really appreciate their support. Also, thank you to Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share, where members are committed to honoring Christ and serving one another through healthcare needs. As my dad Todd likes to say, we use, love, and recommend Samaritan Ministries. And you can learn more about Redeem Health Share by Samaritan Ministries at samaritanministries.org/familyman. And we also really appreciate their support. But Dad, if you're ready, go ahead and get started. Let's go.
Well, it's been a blustery day here in northern Indiana. We spent some of our time in our basement. I was here with Maggie and Debbie, my wife, and then Jed was here for a little while. The sirens went off, and it looked like it was supposed to be a tornado warning, and it didn't look like anything happened. So everybody was fine. I know, Ben, it was dark where you were. But through the magic of AI, my son Ike has this tree that's like right outside his window that he's scared to death that it's going to fall. And I mean, he sent out a video of a very realistic looking tree. It wasn't quite right, but it uprooted. It was super terrifying, actually. Yeah, at first.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, that thing, I mean, it is hollow on the inside. It's wild how it's still living. Honestly, it's just amazing that trees can hang on for that long. But we had, hopefully it's not a sign for anything for our marriage, because Dad has kind of like planted a tree for the two weddings that took place in their yard. One of them was ours. And I don't know has the tree been since the first year we got married, or...
Yeah.
So it's like 11 years old.
From the day you got married.
Yeah. So 11 years since our wedding, and unfortunately the top of it cracked off and fell off. So does that kill it, or?
No, it won't kill it. It's part of the history of the tree.
Broken,
now.
But not dead, so.
Well, that's what Ike and Carolyn, like, we have a tree and that we planted at theirs. They did a unity tree, which is not a great idea, by the way. Which, like, they have a tree and they both pour dirt over the roots. And I told them, I said, now when I plant this has nothing to do with your marriage.
Yeah.
If it dies or a car runs over it, it's not, because I just thought, oh, they're gonna really go, really freak out if something happens.
Yeah.
Trees die, trees get run over, trees get struck by lightning. Yeah, it's not an omen. It's not an omen.
We are a third today into August, basically. This evening I was walking around the pool because it was, it's kind of been, like you said, rainy and stuff. So it felt a little darker than it normally did. But I was like, man, it feels like fall today for some reason this evening. And then it was fine the rest of the night. But it just is so depressing. I can hardly handle it.
We're just like, what's the point? Why even have
Why do
summer?
we live here?
I mean, why do we? People in Florida, they just go, it's another hot day, and it just keeps going. But it just is, I don't know. It's bad. But we were watching that a YouTube video that the kids like, because we were watching some kids tonight, Outdoor Boys, where that guy's in Alaska. I mean, it's like April and it is already so, freezing cold there already. Or whatever it was, June, and it's freezing cold.
Yeah, totally.
So there are worse places than where we live.
There are.
Just not many. Just not many. But hey, we're going to talk about kind of the road back to school, things that we need to get ready, and maybe we'll talk about it for a couple weeks here. Because there are a lot of things to get ready. And I know my wife, who's, we're on our very last kid of homeschooling, there's not much to get ready. You have to make a few orders and that's it. And which I think she's relieved, because life takes up a lot of time. So that's one of those things she doesn't really have to worry about right now. But I can remember those early days where my wife would get super excited. She'd start planning and start thinking about it. I'd give her a day, no more than one day, to kind of write up schedules, and she's done the whole gambit where she wrote out, minute by minute or 5 minute by 5 minute schedules, and had everything planned out. And then other times where it was a little more loose and she just panicked at the end and just kind of took up where they left off the year before. And I, my little perspective is that they all end in disaster anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I would always find my wife sitting in this one green chair that we used to have, kind of staring vacantly into the yonder, and I'd say, "How's it going?" Usually on that first day, and she'd say, "It's pointless, just pointless. Why do we do this?
You're hopeless, Charlie
But
Brown."
then she would recover. Yeah, I would sometimes say that. Of all the Charlie Browns, you're the Charlie Brown. But and then she'd recover, and I'd talk her off the edge, and you can do it, and she'd get back in the game. But I thought maybe today we could talk about, and it's a topic we've talked about before, but homeschool co-ops, because homeschool co-ops are just kind of maybe an untapped resource for some. Maybe they're a burden to others. And we've kind of, again, run the gambit. We've been in several co-ops, some that were not great for my family, and others that were precious to my family. And I'd had the privilege of leading the gym time for years and years. I don't know, Maggie was like a preteen, I think, when I started, and how much fun it was to.
It's just weird because this is just a different, I never was part of that co-op. So, it's nothing, I know nothing about it, but it's amazing you were part of it that long.
And it was so much fun to see these little kids who are now getting married be in our gym class. And it was just a really precious time. And then that changed. The co-op kind of grew and kind of split, different focuses. And then we had a little gym time with just a few kids, and this year I'm not doing gym at all. So this has been my first year without a gym time. So, but I see the value of them. And so I just thought maybe we could talk about homeschool co-ops. And Ben, because there are different kinds. And when I asked over at Facebook today, I said, what do you like best about your co-op? And I don't know if you're over there right now, Ben, but, there are some patterns that I see among the co-ops, because, and maybe we can just talk about some of those. Anything that you pick up from all those comments, Ben?
Yeah, one, let me see if I can find the specific name. The person said, Tracy said, my kids have an opportunity to try things that I wouldn't be able to at home, like drama, choir, ham radio, So I do think the idea of maybe a bigger group is it might be stuff that it's not that you couldn't do any of it. It's just that you likely wouldn't do any of it. So it might give you an opportunity to, maybe your kids will find something they wouldn't have ever, enjoyed. Or let's say you don't really like science, and maybe you have a kid that did liking science. Having someone at a co-op who actually does enjoy science talking about it can often kind of give you that extra little bit of passion that you may not have. So I think there's, some fun parts, or, being able to play a sport with more people. If you only have 2 kids and you want them to learn, hey, they're all going to go play. I know, I learned volleyball from, my mom, but we had a bunch of kids, so we could kind of do that with, a good handful of people. Some of those kind of things are hard to do with just a couple kids. So I think there are some of those benefits of just that bigger group can bring just some variety. If you're just feeling kind of drained or kind of starved for ideas yourself.
Well, I think even Tracy's comment was, I think that kind of divides those opportunities into 2 groups, because there were some people who would say, I wanted someone to teach subjects. I wanted to be able to drop my kid off, or I just didn't want to have to do a lot. I didn't feel qualified. So it was nice to know that somebody else was doing math, science, history, and those things. I think Tracy, along with several others, even Rachel, said elective classes that she would say, like cupcake decorating. And really, our co-op kind of did that. It didn't offer any traditional classes, but it was a great place to do extra things. Right. I can remember a guy came in and they made some little wooden stools. In fact, I'm looking at one of them right now. Ben burned one of them in his fire not too long
Oh
ago.
no, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was from
one
that.
of them burning. But
Oh
this
no.
one here, Jed sat on it while he was waiting out the storm. But, some old guy came in and he had his few shop tools, and all the kids made a stool
It's
that
like
they
burning one of
cherished
Dad's
until
children. I didn't realize
their
that.
son
Oh no.
burned it in the burn
Oh
pile.
no.
And they did other things. They did I think they did square dancing at one time. They did choir at one time. They did other art projects. They had a lady come in and talk about agronomy, which is dirt and soils, which that was a loser of a time. Nobody seemed to like that one. But I think that's kind of cool that you can bring someone in, and it doesn't have to feel like, like one of the biggies. It's just an extra fun or supposed to be fun opportunity.
I mean, ours, Marissa's part of one with her mom is kind of helps run and so the grandmas are kind of the ones who are actually doing a lot of the lifting on it, and then the moms get a little bit more time to interact and all that. So that's kind of cool. Most of them are second generation homeschoolers, which is really fun. But they'll all go to the fire station, or they went to one of the ladies knew someone who ended up being a pilot, so they went and got to see an airplane, and kind of they walked them through it all and all that kind of stuff. Or they might have someone from the zoo come and do a bunch of demonstrations there, or they go to the weather station and get to see the Doppler and all that kind of stuff. So there's like a lot of those fun kind of more field trippy just opportunities, and a lot of times they'll kind of do a theme for the week or something like that, and just the goal is just to have fun with the kids, let the kids have time together. And kind of building off that, one of the things I think is kind of can be a benefit too is if you do feel a little bit more isolated, maybe you don't have quite as many friends or support community, and you're just obviously every mom, I think sometimes the days can feel long. I think a co-op would be a good way just to kind of help break up the long days of just every day feels the same, or real just gives you a little bit of variety, and maybe take a little bit of, even if you're still obviously having to watch your kids or keep them alive, it change of pace and change of location with other people can sometimes help out with that a little bit. So I think that's a side benefit.
Well, let's do a little break here and just say we want to thank Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share for making today's show possible. Part of being a parent means making sure your family is well taken care of. And with rising prices on everything, you can't do it alone. As members of Samaritan Ministries, we don't have to, because it's Christians helping Christians with healthcare burdens through prayer, encouragement, and financial help. It has worked for us, and it could work for your family too. Get started at SamaritanMinistries.org/FamilyMan.
Real quick, also, we want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks and just for all the support they give us and just the homeschool community in general. They're an amazing math curriculum, and our family's getting ready to start it this year again. And we really, really loved it last year, and I loved it when I was in school. So go check them out. It just keeps getting better and better, and you can do that over at teachingtextbooks.com. But yeah, a lot of people here said, like Alicia said, for us, it's the relationships that we have found, feeling like we belong and have support when the days are hard. Because as we talked about 100 times, the days are going to be hard. There are going, but to find that support, I really think it's crucial that your group has people who can be real. We've talked about this on other past episodes, but there are groups where people, maybe, it is very focused on, maybe it's super high achieving, like academically, or, there's whole systems of homeschooling that can be very challenging. And, maybe everyone's really focused, and it's just, you feel like, a failure every time you go because every other person seems like they've got it all together. If people aren't able to share some of the hard stuff, if you're struggling in that area, that may be a little bit discouraging every week. So I hope you can find one that, you feel like people are able to just be open and honest about the hard days too, and build those relationships.
And really, I think that's the most important part. Because there were lots of comments, moms said, just the relationships, the times with moms that can meet moms. Really, that's why I started the gym class, because the moms were doing it and they were taking turns. And I said, how about if I did it and then you moms could just talk? And so they did that. And I loved when my wife would come home and I'd say, "Hey, how did co-op go?" And she'd go, "Oh, we talked about this," and it was so encouraging. And I think like where Ben was right is that I think they're encouraged not in just saying, "Oh yeah, well, what do you use for math?" Even though that's important. I think what is encouraging is when a mom goes, "I hate doing math. I hated homeschooling this week. I hated my kids this week," because then after being real, then all these other moms they kind of give their 2 cents too, and it just feels like it's a place of healing, and it's wonderful. I remember we had Amy Deary on the show. I think she's been on twice, and has talked about co-ops and really that's what she said. They have that time where the moms can just share, and I just think that is so important.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is an interesting one again, kind of on the realness. Is Brittany here said that her favorite thing about or best thing about co-ops is that they don't go to one. She said, "I know it's great for some families, but we like not having to go to co-op." And then a couple other people jumped on that, said same, tried it once, definitely not for us. Someone said same, tried it and saw quickly it wasn't worth the drama, which I think that is an interesting word choice there, because there definitely are many co-ops where it's just, you're a bunch of people all working together to try to run this thing, and often that's not going to be without personalities and, opinions and stuff like that. So, signing up, there can be some challenges, when it comes to just some of those decisions that have to be made. So totally get that. And it isn't for everyone, especially if you feel like you've got support or you don't need the extra support, or you've got friends and all that. I think that's fine. We, as growing up, we were in it for periods of time, but for us, we traveled a lot more than I feel like, than like we were just gone a lot. So we really weren't part of co-ops for, I would say, more than a year maybe at a time, or a couple years here and there. Whereas you guys were pretty consistent for a long time on this one. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And our co-op was real. It had a short season. So it was like 8 weeks up until Christmas, and then 8 weeks the next after the new year. And then it was just over. So that's not a very long season. But I totally agree. If your co-op doesn't bring you joy and refreshment, I would say don't do the co-op. If it feels like a lot of stress, I know there were times where in the first co-op that we were ever part of, I know that there was some push by some parents to some of the moms to like, let's get our kids up there and and they can do reports and talk on things, and it just caused huge pressure on some of my kids, and they're like, and we thought, I can remember talking with Mom, and I'm like, I don't want that for my kids. I don't want them to feel like, their weakness is going to be highlighted or whatever. It's not their strength, and I wanted them to do the things that they were good at, and like that's why I like gym and those non academic things. Mm-hmm. So if it didn't bring you joy, get out of it or don't do it, and don't feel guilty. You don't have to at all.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about, the whole forming your own? I mean, do you feel like that's something that...
I think that's a great idea. I do. Because I had just jotted down, about co-ops. You should join one, start one, or leave one, and I think you could start one. A mom started one that was part of our group, and it has just blossomed. They had a different focus. Some of the moms have focus where they use it more of an outreach, where there might be some moms families who aren't Christians, and they're saying, hey, could we use this to encourage them in the gospel? We weren't really excited about some of that because we wanted our kids just to have a good, safe place where everybody's on the same page, and we weren't going to use it for evangelism. And that's okay too. But I think it's interesting that these moms who have just said, hey, I just want to open up the doors and say, if there are any moms who'd like to be a part of something, I'm starting something. And they've had success in that. And I would just encourage you. At one point we were when we first started the Smiling Homeschooler, I was trying to kind of advance the idea of Smiling Homeschooler homeschool groups, where it would just be the focus would be on encouragement, moms encouraging others, and then kids spending some time with each other. And maybe if you could do field trips, or you could do, some extracurricular, that's all icing on the cake. But I wanted ones where moms could just be real and not feel like they're alone, because I think homeschooling can make you feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
You can feel like you could live for Wednesdays, where you were going to get together. And so and I don't think you have to even know anything. I don't even think you have to be a seasoned homeschooler. I think you could just say, I'd like to start one. Maybe you're a retired homeschooler or getting ready to retire. And I think that would be a great opportunity for a seasoned mom to just say, hey, we're going to have something at our church every Wednesday for homeschoolers. I would keep it short. I wouldn't have a lot of volunteers. I wouldn't, have to have nursery, even though you might, even though I know our homeschool group at times they took turns. And I don't think it has to be perfect. It just has to be a place where you can gather.
Nikki here said, it's a safe space for kids with autism, ADHD, processing disorders, anxiety disorders, and more. The kids have a safe community and a fun environment to themselves, and I'm blessed to be the director. I love the community of moms too. But I do think that is something that if you have children that have different, just challenges than, some others, then I do think groups can be a great place for that, since obviously it's a small group. Generally, people can know what's going on and help you with that. And I think that definitely is a cool element of that. Haven't had to directly interact with that myself in that capacity, but I definitely know there's
Well, I just think,
there.
again, I've just been so impressed by our homeschooled kids. And I know that there were always times, almost every year, we had one kid or two kids or three kids who just were hard. Everything was hard for them. And Jim was no exception. They didn't get the rules when they played a game. They cowered in the corner, didn't want to touch the ball or get near the ball. And I saw so many of the kids, older and athletic kids, who were so kind to these kids. They would get the ball and say, here, you throw it in, or you do it. And I just think, man, what an amazing group of people. Because if they were in a regular school setting, I remember what it was like. Those kids got killed. They were the on the Serengeti when the lion goes for that. That's the kid they went for. And our homeschool group was not that. And I will take not some credit, but I learned to encourage that from our good friend Rick Andreessen, or Coach Rick, who's known down in Florida, South Florida. With a huge homeschool PE group. He would always reward what Jesus rewarded. So when they had games, he would give awards to the best cheerer or the person who, was the kindest. And we started doing that in our co-op when we were in our heyday. I'd bring a candy and give it to the person I thought cheered the loudest for everybody else. And I just see great opportunities for things like that in a homeschool co-op that do not happen in other places.
That is something that if your kid is, a kid that goes up and, encourages another one to be like, oh, hey, we want you to play if I see one of my kids or someone else do that for my kids or anything else, it is one of the things that I love the most to see. That is just such a cool thing. I've always hated when there's some, kid just left out or, or people don't want to play with them or whatever. It just breaks my heart to see that. So it's always awesome when someone does that. And it's good parenting if your kids are actually aware enough to do that. Not saying you're a bad parent if they don't, but I just
and even
I think that's so cool.
At the beginning of co-op, this is the beauty of homeschooling and homeschooling co-ops, because I loved at the beginning and the end of all our co-ops, because it was just a bunch of kids out in there either in the gym or in the in the hallways or outside in the playground, and they all ages playing together. It's not awesome. A school thing. That is a homeschool only thing. And that's life and training. And I love that. I just love that. So, and again, I think homeschool co-ops have the potential to be really something good for you as a mom. I think they need to be real. I think they need to be encouraging, because no homeschooling mom, even if you don't like the co-op setting, should go it alone. You need to make sure you have someone to encourage you and someone that you can encourage. And I think homeschool co-ops are a great way to do that. And so I would say again, like I said earlier, if you know of one, I'd try to join it. I would make sure that it's producing smiles. I know some of the co-ops are so full they don't have room for other people. They don't. There were times our co-op couldn't let anybody else in. And if it's full, don't despair. Start one. And I would say, just doesn't have to be perfect. Pick a time. Usually do it in your church. Pick one with a gym, and and do that. And then I'd say if you're in a co-op and it's not bringing you joy, leave one. And don't feel guilty about it. And so how about we just stop there? And I want to thank you again for being part of the Smiling Homeschooler. If you've got any questions or things that you'd like us to talk about, let us know. Again, if you want to take advantage of World Watch News, we mentioned that. If you haven't signed up for that, please do. You can use the link that I think we used the last time. But if you use the code TODD30, TODD 30, you'll get up to 67 days off. I don't know how that works, but we'll try it. And then one other thing. I did, in the past, I've been working on my You to Dad daily calendar. We've offered it for at least 20 plus years. And the last several years, we've given an opportunity for moms and dads to sponsor a page, kind of to help underwrite it. And then they can put on, they got a third of the page to put anything they want. Last year, I had a lot of moms who just knew their husbands they had bought the calendar for their husbands for years, or he got it. And they put on there, happy anniversary, Bob, to the best husband ever. Or one of them, I was just thinking, I just saw today, it said, to our big, strong dad, thanks for being the dad, and it has a picture. If you'd like to do that, surprise your husband. It's $100 for every page you do, or every date you pick, but you don't have very long to decide. So you could contact me at FamilyMan, all one word, FamilyMan at FamilyManWeb.com. Pick a date and just a little line of text, and we'll get the ball rolling. But if you'd like to do that, you can as well. So have a great week, whether you're starting school or not. Again, you need people in your life, so make sure you have someone, at least one person that you can be real with. You can travel this homeschool road together. And if you're married, make sure your husband, keep him in the loop on that. And that should make everybody smile.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you need, maybe some materials or a book to go through as a homeschool co-op, check out our website, thesmilinghomeschooler.com. Go to the store. There's, books like Lies Homeschooling Moms Believe that are great to go through as a co-op. There's a bunch of other ones that Dad's written that are just so encouraging and would be great gifts as well if you know another mom who might need some extra encouragement. Also, again, thank you to Teaching Textbooks for just making what we do possible. Go support them. Check out their math curriculum. We really do believe in it, and we use it ourselves at teachingtextbooks.com. And again, thank you to Samaritan Ministries and Redeem Health Share, where members are committed to honoring Christ and serving one another through healthcare needs. As my dad Todd likes to say, we use, love, and recommend Samaritan Ministries, and you can learn more about Redeem Health Share at samaritanministries.org/familyman. And they are happy to answer any questions. I know we actually had someone reach out within the last couple of weeks, asking some questions about it specifically. We obviously don't actually work for them. So if you do have any questions, give them, you can write from that link. You can fill out some information and they'd be happy to help. So go check them out. But all right, everyone have a great week. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to smile.